What's up, guys? MMA analyst here to give you my betting picks for UFC 140 taking place in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. Lots of Canadians on this card. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, I mean, just to mention about that, when people are fighting in their hometown, I had a conversation with somebody where like they have to win this fight, and that means like they'll try harder, or they're fighting in their hometown, that gives them the advantage. Unlike team sports, that kind of stuff doesn't matter. It might be a morale boost, but in a one-on-one sport, the lesser of the two does not get any extra added powers, or whatever that might be, that little extra shot of adrenaline, whatever it might be. It's not going to matter when it comes fight time. It's not going to make them win. It's not going to pull them out of a problem. If somehow they get out of it, it will be their skill that did it. So don't ever let home field advantage change anything in the way you look at betting in MMA. In sports, oh yeah, like team sports, absolutely, but not MMA. Anyways, let's get right down to it. Main event: Jon Jones versus Lyoto Machida. Simple as this. You can't go against Jon Jones until somebody shows us a reason to. Obviously, a lot of people say just bet on Jon Jones right off the bat. He's going to be I don't know. Machida is going to, in my opinion, prove to be a threat at least. His style, his approach to fighting, his actual well-rounded abilities, all of them are problems for any fighter for the most part. And I think this includes Jon Jones. And that's why it's going to be a platinum pick for Jon Jones. I do think Jon Jones will win. If he can blow Machida out of the water, like, first round, that'll be amazing. And vice versa. If Machida wins this fight, I don't see it happening within the first couple rounds. If Jon Jones wins this fight, I also don't see it going within the first couple rounds. So, Jon Jones to win, platinum pick. I think he's going to have the reach. His wrestling is on point. But again, I would not say bet on Machida. I'm just saying that it is a platinum pick with total realization that Lyoto Machida could surprise a lot of people. But end of the day, Jon Jones, I'm going to go with TKO, or at least not going the full 5 rounds. I think he will finish the fight at some point. Frank Mir versus Antonio Rodrigo Nogueira. Simple as this. It's very difficult to put money on somebody like Nogueira at this point in his career. Sure, he's fun to root for, and he's exciting to watch. He puts himself in harm's way, all that great stuff. But he is considerably slower, and this is all due to the kind of damage he's taken throughout his career. And some of that damage includes what Frank Mir did to him in his first bout, where I think he knocked him down 3 times before Herb Dean finally said, all right, that's enough. I think it's going to be similar type of a thing. Frank Mir, his hands in general, he doesn't have the best hands. And Nogueira is, he has a boxing background. His hands are good, but they're not what they used to be. He can still knock people out. Take a look at what happened to Brendan Schaub, but I don't know if that's going to happen this fight. I'm going to go with Frank Mir. It's going to be a gold pick for Frank Mir. If the fight goes to the ground, then, it could be Nogueira's thing. But I don't see Nogueira getting the fight to the ground. I don't see Mir getting the fight to the ground. I think if either guy wants to take the fight to the ground, they can't really do it. They're both good on the ground, but getting the fight to the ground is something that's just probably not going to happen. So I think it's going to be a stand-up match. Frank Mir's hands are faster. And as much as he doesn't like to get hit, I don't know if Nogueira is going to be able to hit him if Frank Mir comes at him the way he did in their first fight, and I think that's what he'll do. Tito Ortiz versus Antonio Rodrigo Nogueira. This is actually going to be... Now, I picked for my regular picks Antonio Rodrigo Nogueira. And it's not a bad pick at all. He's the favorite. He's the 2-1 favorite. It makes sense. He's got good hands. He's been stuffing takedowns, etc., etc. But I think a good silver pick, basically... like a solid underdog bet would be to pick Tito Ortiz to win this fight. He's the 2-1 underdog, almost plus 200, and it could prove to be a decent bet. This is the kind of thing you put on its own, obviously. If you normally bet $100 a fight, you would bet half or even 1/3 of what you would normally bet, unless you just want to go balls to the wall. But I say that it is worth putting some money on Tito Ortiz. Again, it's a silver pick though, so how sure am I? I think most likely Nogueira is going to win. And if you want to bet on Nogueira, go ahead. But my advice will be a silver pick for Tito Ortiz. Either way, I think it's a solid bet. Brian Ebersole versus Claude Patrick. This is going to be a gold pick for Claude Patrick. Claude Patrick, he is the underdog as well. Let me see what he's at. Claude Patrick is at plus 115. It's basically almost even. Ebersole at minus 125. I think Claude Patrick's going to decide where the fight goes. Most of the time in MMA, if you can say who is going to decide where the fight goes, if you can determine that, then you can almost always determine the winner. If a guy wants to take the fight to the ground, then he's going to end up on top, and he probably doesn't want to take the fight to the ground in somebody's amazing guard. And if the guy wants to keep it on the feet, and he can, it's probably not because he wants to keep it on the feet against an amazing striker. Claude Patrick is solid enough to not get submitted by Brian Ebersole. Ebersole, he does like to brawl. Claude Patrick is a lot more reserved with his fighting. I think that those reservations will cause him to kind of fight for that win. I think that he's going to come out with the win, and I think it will be a decision win for Claude Patrick. Again, it is a gold pick. I think I said that the first time. If I didn't, that's what I wanted to say. Gold pick for Claude Patrick. Next up, Mark Hominick versus Chan Sung Jung. This is going to be a diamond pick for Mark Hominick. The odds aren't the best. Mark Hominick minus 440. But it is what it is. Chan Sung Jung, his hands are not great by any stretch of the imagination. His grappling is okay. His wrestling is okay. I think Mark Hominick's going to be able to do whatever he wants. This is the kind of fight where I say put it up with something else that has a high potential of winning. Maybe Mark Hominick and John Jones together. And then if there's somebody else that I mentioned on the undercard. But yeah, Mark Hominick, in all likelihood, should win this fight, and it should be a knockout. And looking at the rest of the card, John Jones could get that knockout. Frank Mir could get a knockout. So could Nogueira. So could both Nogueiras. I mean, it's tough. It's tough to pick a knockout of the night, especially with these light heavyweights and heavyweights doing their thing. But if you wanted to pick a knockout of the night, good possibility is Mark Hominick knocking out Chan Sung Jung. I mean, it's almost definitely going to happen. It's just, is it going to be a knockout of the night? All right. So there you go. Let's see. Krzysztof Sosinski versus Igor Pokrayets. I'm going to go with a gold pick for Krzysztof Sosinski. He is a very up and down fighter. He should be better than Pokrayets at everything. But he does tend to lose bouts where it's just kind of like, I don't know if he should have lost that fight or whatever. He had both fights against Stephan Bonner. He's just a very up and down fighter. So given the way he fights and his tendency to brawl, it won't be any higher than a gold pick, but it is a gold pick for Krzysztof Sosinski. Jared Hammond versus Konstantinos Philippou. This is going to be a do not bet. If you want to bet on somebody, then put your money on Jared Hammond, but it's going to be a do not bet. John Makdessi versus Dennis Hallman. I think this is the most underdogs I've ever picked on a card. Dennis Hallman plus 135. John Makdessi at minus 155. Going back to depicting where the fight goes, I think Dennis Hallman's going to be able to get this fight to the ground, and I think he's going to be able to do it over and over again and end up winning by decision. Obviously, if John Makdessi wins this, it's going to be by knockout. He does have pretty decent hands. He had the nice spinning back fist against Kyle Watson, But the thing about Dennis Hallman is he is a seasoned vet, and he is still able to pull off wins. He just lost to Brian Ebersole, but prior to that, a big win over Carl Parisian, a big win over Ben Saunders. I definitely see Dennis Hallman being able to take this fight to the ground and winning probably by decision. So it is going to be a gold pick for the underdog. That makes, Claude Patrick is the underdog. Dennis Hallman's the underdog. Tito Ortiz is the underdog. Dang. I don't think there are any others, though. All right, next fight, Yves Jabouin versus Walel Watson. Yves Jabouin basically, it's very difficult to put money on him. He's a wild fighter, loses fights he shouldn't lose. Walel Watson, totally unproven, so I wouldn't put money on him. Basically, do not bet. Mark Bocek versus Nick Lentz. This is a good one, I think, with the odds. Nick Lentz at plus 145, Mark Bocek at minus 165. I do have Mark Bocek winning this. It is going to be a platinum pick for Mark Bocek. I mean, he loses to pretty much the best guys only. Ben Henderson, he lost to, crazy focus, aggressive Ben Henderson. Lost to Jim Miller before that. And Frankie Edgar, Mac Danzig prior to that. Mac Danzig's back in 2008, and Frankie Edgar is back in 2007. Overall, 9-4, but I don't think he'll have an issue with Nick Lentz. Nick Lentz is basically a wrestler, and he is going to go out there and try to wrestle all day. And I think grappling-wise, jiu-jitsu-wise, Mark Bocek will be able to take care of that. Nick Lentz is terrible on the feet. Nick Lentz, the problem with him is he is very relentless. He does have a lot of cardio, and is able to do kind of what he wants to do. He is 21-3-2 with a lot of decisions. So that would be the fear here, would be that Nick Lentz is actually able to kind of just make it his fight and hold Mark Bocek down. But I don't think that's what's going to happen. I am pretty confident that Mark Bocek will get the win, and it is, again, pretty good odds at minus 165. Rich Attonito over Jake Hecht. I'm going to say Rich Attonito. This is going to be a platinum pick for him. I normally don't like making platinum picks or higher picks like that with guys who are kind of like not really as proven. But with his win over Daniel Roberts, that was very impressive. And, he's got the win over Rafael Natal as well. I think he'll be able to take out Jake Hecht. And, the odds aren't that bad either, minus 240. Jake having fought, basically, I think he fought in the U.S. for his whole career, but right now he's in Ireland. Doesn't really show much, doesn't really show many strengths, to be honest. His losses coming to Shea Mills, which basically one of the only guys that he fought that had any kind of a name whatsoever. So I do think it's going to be a win for Rich Attonito. Probably won't go the distance. I do see him finishing the fight. Rich Attonito platinum pick. And Mitch Clark versus John Cholish. That's a do not bet. So there you go. UFC 140. Those are my picks. Good luck, everybody. Hopefully it's been going well. I've been kind of doing well with the picks over the last 4 or 5 events, and hopefully we can keep it rolling with UFC 140. All right, MMA, it's important. Peace.